Welcome to A Place at the Table. I'm really happy that so many people have come to see this. So we started talking about this about a year ago. A few of us went to a conference in Washington, D.C., and it was an ecumenical conference on hunger. And for that, we watched this DVD that you're going to see over a period of 3 weeks. And it involved some discussion and then watching the video and hopefully a call to action at the end. Every week we'll have a handout for you that has a challenge, maybe to try something that helps, I guess, understand hunger a little bit better. So, so my question first is, when you think about hunger, what does hunger look like to you? What is your image of hunger? So just kind of thinking about it, like, okay, if I think about hunger, what comes to mind?
The malnourished people you see on TV for the kids.
Okay, yeah, so people who are really
big kids, little kids with big bellies.
Little kids with big bellies.
Mm-hmm. I see inner city children.
Inner city children, so actually an ethnic race. Anybody else? Population. So then a territory. Do you think about why at all? Does that go? We talk about kind of who, and where, any whys, like what is this hunger problem about?
I think of some of the soup kitchens or the lines you see out of St. Ben's, and I just presume, I don't know, but I presume maybe they're homeless people.
Okay, so again, the homeless, and poverty definitely, has a lot to do with it. So without going into too much more then, I just kind of want to explore that idea, kind of thinking about what do we think about hunger when we hear the word hunger. So we'll have more discussion about it after we watch this clip of the video. It's going to be about 30 minutes, so we can start that. So that was part one of the DVD. I think that first part already makes a lasting impression, but I can guarantee you the next two parts are equally, if not more, powerful. So based on what we just saw, so now has your image of hunger changed? From your original idea, like, oh, what do I think about hunger? What do I think about when I hear the word hunger? Has it changed now? And how? Just could you share? Yeah.
It has since we started with our food ministry. At St. Matthew's, when Pastor Chris found out that the catered food that Saz's was bringing was being thrown away, he was compelled to find some people to work. And Chris, of course, was the first one, and a number of us have since come to do that on Mondays, and now it'll be on Tuesdays. My image of that has changed to the staggering numbers that this film clip suggests. My thoughts are the people that should see this are the athletes that get $100 million contracts over 12 to 15 years, CEOs that make $10, $12 million a year, and I know that some people like Bill Gates are giving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year towards efforts like this, but a lot of these people need to see this and understand what's going on, and a number of the politicians, when I see a food desert, that's something that I didn't realize, that there are people that can't get fresh vegetables, that can't go to open markets like we can in Brookfield or Wauwatosa and buy fresh vegetables right from the people that grow them. That's a fantastic thing, and that's what's stunned me the most is there are food deserts where people can only buy the packaged stuff, and the fact that this is subsidized and fresh vegetables and fruits and grown crops aren't. That's something that our government needs to really take a look at and change.
And I hope you see, and because you mentioned politicians, this is not a partisan issue, it's a non-partisan issue, it's a human issue that people have to eat. And have, not just eat, but have nutritious food. And have access to nutritious food. So what else, according to the film, what does hunger look like? How does the film, or the clip, talk about hunger? That is different from what you originally thought.
Well, it certainly isn't just the hungry children you see on TV from Africa.
Right, it's not just, right, it's not necessarily the
Those children.
Nancy is right.
Much different than the hungry children that we just,
Right, little Rosie,
yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't pick her out in the classroom and say, oh, she's hungry. Mm-mm. And I think that's really an important point, actually. And I'll just share a little story with you, that a friend, a young couple, looking at houses, and they're looking at foreclosures, and walked into a house in a very nice neighborhood, and a very middle-class neighborhood, and walked into the house, looked fine on the outside, and the inside is just holes in the walls, and some remnants of animals being there. And the realtor turned to her and she said, this is what happens when you have to choose between where to spend your money. Is it food or is it this? And it was just so poignant because if you drove up to the house, you thought, oh, this is just like any other house, every other person who lives in this fine middle-class neighborhood. So, yeah, I think, so we covered a few areas. When we originally talked, before it started, we talked about Africa, the Appalachians, but Colorado, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, it's everywhere. So going on then, why do you think it's called a place at the table? What is the meaning of a place at the table? What does that mean to you?
Everybody should have food.
Equal access.
Everybody should have food, equal access, family.
We're all
So we have to take care of each other.
I was just thinking about our Eucharist. You know, Jesus made sure that all of us have a place at the table. Sinner, saint. And then what do we do? Do we make places at the table for everyone?
So having a place at the table is, do we make room? Do we make room? Are we including everyone? So think about a time, and I'm sure everyone has some time, some moment that you haven't felt like you had a place at the table, like you didn't belong, like, oh, that seat's taken and that's where I wanted to sit, or... So can you share a time when maybe you didn't feel like you had a place at the table? Maybe it didn't have to do necessarily with hunger, but a time when you felt like you didn't have that place at the table.
Although we were never hungry, there was a time in my life when I had children when I had to take things off of the trays. And, you know, actually, I'd put things back and I'd say, how much is this? And she'd bring it up and I'd say, okay, it goes back.
Yeah. I remember doing that with my mother. Can I have this? You know, we have to buy that many of them then for everyone, so that doesn't fit in the budget. Or, but the whole belonging. I mean, do people feel like they belong when they don't have that place at the table? When they aren't part of, Rosie can see, Rosie's with other children. How's she feeling about having her place at the table? Definitely Barbie knows what real life is all about. And so what group do they belong to? Where do they belong?
I'm just amazed that, was it Barbie is the young black woman?
Mm-hmm, right.
That her perseverance to get groceries.
Mhm.
And or to go to a fully stocked store. And then the other mother who traveled from Jonesville, just to get food.
Just to get good food, right? Just the long travel, like 2 hours for Barbie, and I don't know how long it was for the other woman to get good food, to get nutritious food, or try to buy some healthy food at a reasonable price. And yes, and thinking about the food ministry, and when we went to this conference a year ago, Lorna went also, and one of the things that came up was, it's great, there are places to buy really inexpensive food. So later on I went to Woodman's, I'm like, look, I could get a bag of potatoes for 69 cents. Great, because I can get there. But the people who need the 69-cent potatoes and can really benefit from them can't get to Woodman's.
And it's hard riding a bus and bringing back a week's worth of groceries.
Right, good point, yes. And how are you going to carry all those groceries, right? Or get them from point A to point B, exactly. Vince?
It kind of seemed a little removed, but it's, before Lauren and I were married, we were at a church and they had name tags for members and non-members, and I got stubborn and I was not a member, and so I put a member's sticker on because I didn't want people talking to me only because I wasn't a member. So it was interesting that it was kind of an experiment that was born out of ignorance and my sort of impatience more than anything else, but there were people, a lot of people who came up and talked to me because they said, oh, you're a member and I don't know who you are. So the people I met, maybe it was self-fulfilling prophecy, but I believe they talked to me differently. And I don't think it's in anybody's heart to do that, but when you're already at the table, whether you realize it or not, you might treat people differently. So it was an interesting, I think I learned something after the fact that was more than what I anticipated to start with. And I was at a Bible study with people from inner city, and somebody mentioned this word already. They asked one person, what was it that people have that have opportunity that you don't have? And one fellow said, access. It's the only word he would say. And it applied to so many things. Mm-hmm. Is access. I mean, a lot of times we think people don't buy good food because they make the choice not to buy it. But in fact, what this really pointed out is they don't have the access.
Yeah, you covered a lot of territory, but that first portion, exactly, going a place at the table, feeling right. People, I'm sure, would have gladly talked to you with the other name tag on, in a different way though. And that's just it. How do people belong? Yeah.
So a place at the table, to me, whether you're talking about food or other things, presents one of the, for me, always personally, one of the fundamental moral questions, and that is the morality I use with the people that are at my table, that I know, my friends, my family, my kids, who I will support even when they screw up, who I give things to even maybe when they don't deserve. Why should my morality for them be different than my morality for the people that are in a wider circle that I don't know? Why would I support a policy that doesn't care for people down the block that I wouldn't do with the people that are sitting at my table? And yet, that is a fundamental thing that gets done by human beings all the time, all places, all times. Why is that? Why can't we extend the circle of what we believe and how we deal with people beyond those that are right in front of us? Why do we have videos that we show like this? It's to force us to bring people that we don't know into a circle of our knowledge. Well, why does it take that? Why can't we just love and care for people in a broader circle than we do?
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind. Right? These people you don't know, you don't speak to.
Right, and not top of mind, not.
Right.
I guess I'd like to believe that we are not people who don't care, more that we just don't have it in front of us often enough, or that we aren't active enough.
But we live in a media world where we have more knowledge about the people in that larger sphere than
That's
anybody's
true.
ever had before.
That's true. We know more than we ever have with all the technology. And maybe that's why we're talking about it, maybe that's what helped us talk about it, and be in action. So food insecurity is another topic, I believe they used it. It's defined as disruptive eating patterns and reduced food intake. 1 in 6 are food insecure, which just means they don't know where their next meal is coming from, what's going to happen. Will I have anything in the refrigerator? When I open the refrigerator, what will I see? Will that 1 can of ravioli be left? Yes.
One of the things that struck me, and I'm so disappointed to see, is how the government is subsidizing the food, the big companies. And how that has, well, it needs to be changed, but how it's changed. When I was young, we had 8 children in our family. My dad broke his back and they told him he'd never walk again. And food stamps weren't around then. So what the county did for our family was gave us some animals, chickens, rabbits, and helped my dad to have a way to feed his family, which is just totally different from what we're doing now. So I think that we really have to look at what our government is doing with the excesses that they have and how they're wasting it.
Yeah. Right, that's interesting, the whole farming part is very interesting. My father was a farmer, and he was when the market went into a tizzy, he was one of those small family farmers who was then had the option to be paid not to farm, which they still do. There are lots of parts to that puzzle, and that people can argue one side and the other, but it is interesting because they did take control of it, and unfortunately it's kind of now it's kind of a little bit of a mess. Maybe it was right at the time, but it just really does, it's different now. Yes.
Just a note about the farm subsidy programs that we're hearing about. Legislatively, those are tied to food stamps. I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but it's one piece, and you can't pass the farm subsidies without the food stamps. So kind of ironic that those are tied together, and they're sort of self-fulfilling.
Well, they were created to provide money for farmers and agriculture. It wasn't created to support people who are starving.
Right.
And in the next couple sessions, we'll dig a little deeper into some of that.
Okay.
That will come up even some more in our video too. So right, so this food insecurity idea isn't about starving, and actually in the United States we don't have people who are starving. We have 1 in 6 who are hungry. So I don't know. I mean, like I think Barbie said, so what's starving? If I don't eat for a day, would you call it starving? I don't know. When I'm the one doing it, maybe I want to call it. So go ahead. So looking at the relationship then between food insecurity and obesity, did the clip help you look at that at all?
I think as people have said already, this is so interrelated. I mean, the subsidies for the commodities, the products, then make those more available in the marketplace, and so there's more packaged foods, and those are cheaper. And then people who have very limited resources who are choosing how to spend their food or their food benefits, they end up buying the poor things, which then have these health issues later. So, I mean, we have to look at it sort of this big interrelated picture, and you can tackle one part, but it's really going to affect all these other pieces as well.
So true. Mm-hmm. Which is why, right, so I think another reason people sometimes maybe step back from everything is like, oh my gosh, it's so huge. But right, to maybe take baby steps in one place or another are always, I mean, steps forward are always steps forward, even if it's a little baby step or a text kind of goes at it from one direction, yes.
One of the things that struck me about this is when I saw the presidents and when I see what's happening now with the First Lady going around and her fight against obesity and exercise, when as a matter of fact, that is a Band-Aid solution to a serious problem as we've seen here. The fact of the matter is, the more you exercise, the hungrier you get. And you look at your professional athletes like football players. These guys eat a grocery store worth of stuff every day because they are putting out extreme energy. And that's a Band-Aid solution. It's going to make these children hungrier if they exercise. They don't exercise because it doesn't make them hungry. If they would turn around and get decent food,
But it's not just the food you use up through your metabolism. It's how your body processes different kinds of food, and certain kinds that get stuck inside your body and can't get metabolized out. And a good deal of that comes from the massively excessive amounts of sugar that's come with our processed foods.
exactly.
And
and that's-
not even just your fruits and vegetables versus chips. Juice is one of the worst foods possible with the massive amounts of sugar that's loaded in it. Most people don't know that, but that's the kind of stuff that gets stuck in a little kid and makes them fat even, and also reduces their body's ability to metabolize in a proper way like an athlete would.
Yeah, and the other point is when you have youngsters grow up in an environment like that, they are susceptible to people who come to them and have criminal activities presented to them, like conveying drugs from one city to another to make money or to belong to a criminal organization to get food and money for their families. It's like a domino effect.
Well, yeah, kind of what Lauren said. Just
And I don't want to blow your
Somebody-
next couple of...
Well, I didn't bring any drugs into the presentation. But I just want to cover one more quick area, and we already actually talked about it. I almost fast-forwarded ahead about the food desert. So we know what a food desert is now, if you didn't before. I mean, it's urban and rural, neighborhoods, rural towns that don't have that ready access to fresh, nutritional food. A lot of them then are have it instead a lot of fast food, convenience stores, a lot of quick service type food. And 23.5 million Americans live in a food desert. That's a lot. Some people say 25 million, but I mean, I don't know, 10% one or the other. I think that that's a powerful, huge number. Yes.
Well, the chart that showed America being the last behind all those other countries with food, I'm ashamed to see that.
She said she's ashamed that America was that last shown to what was it?
Food insecurity.
For food insecurity, yes, for food insecurity.
You know, the most powerful nation in the world, and we're the last in food security.
I'm going to add to that Benson, if you remember when Benson was here from Africa, I mean, one of the things when I said, so what has surprised you? What did you not expect when you came to America that you were seeing? And one of the things he brought up was the poverty. He said, even the poorest have somewhere to live. Even the poorest, we make sure that they have food. And so that was, and I felt ashamed.
But we're way down on the list on a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
And it is part of the political nomenclature that you cannot run for office in the United States of America and admit to any of those kinds of numbers or claim that we aren't the best at every possible thing. You can't run for office and get elected without totally denying those facts.
Well, they definitely don't want to bring it up. Sorry, Mary.
No, that's right. This food desert came up, and I don't recall a neighborhood, but I believe there was like a Walmart or an Aldi that wanted to move into a neighborhood, and the neighborhood was fighting because they wanted a grocery store. And it was in the northern part of Milwaukee. They wanted a grocery store because they wanted access to groceries for their neighborhood. And there was...
And it wasn't one of those Walmarts that has the grocery?
No, it was a CVS, or it was something that didn't have groceries that wanted to be on the block. And the neighborhood wanted the grocery store because they didn't have a grocery store. So they were trying to fight to keep out whatever wanted to be in their neighborhood. So we have the same problem within the Metro Milwaukee area and neighborhoods. So we're not immune to this issue ourselves.
How so? How so, and what do you
I mean,
mean by that?
if there are neighborhoods in Milwaukee that are fighting to
Oh,
have grocery
right,
stores,
right.
we have the same problem too. We're not
Exactly.
immune.
Exactly.
So
We,
this is
I
a
think
local
everybody here,
problem.
we have the same issue here in Milwaukee when Walmart is not
I don't
allowed.
remember
Well,
the
they don't
name.
want Walmart to go in because it's not a supermall, it's a grocery store. They
Right,
want
it
a
was
grocery
something-
store.
Right, they
Right.
wanted a grocery store.
Right. So, quickly, we have points for discussion, which we discussed a little bit. We'd like you to take this home. But also, there's a challenge on here, and we asked if, maybe you want to maybe pick one. During Lent, many people choose to fast as a spiritual practice. So what if fasting were to choice? If you're able, maybe consider skipping a meal, skipping 2 meals. How does it feel mentally? How does it feel physically? What are you thinking about all the time? Are you picturing everybody like a banana, like Rosie? And I'm chuckling, it's not funny. It was so, it's also sad that is how she got through it, and that she just said it like it was just an everyday thing. Like, well, I'm just hungry, so I just keep looking at everybody like their food.
But you know that if she's concentrating on how hungry she is in school,
She's not learning. She's not learning, right? Or there's another challenge from my table to yours. On average, we Americans waste 30 to 40% of the food that we buy. So how much do you spend on food? And would you consider cutting back? What would you take out if you did cut back? And would you consider donating some of that? Is that on the next one? So, and then the reflection just has some quotes that we thought were very great in this. And one of my favorites is when Barbie's talking about my dream is to go to college, but I can't tell my kids, I'll make sure you eat in 2 years. Yeah, we think, oh yeah, they should go to college, they should do this, but there's more to it, like the picture's bigger than that. So I welcome you, or invite you to take one of the challenges and report on it next week if you could, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week. It's going to be another good clip and another good part. Danette and Gretchen and Lorna will be here too next week. Yeah? So thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.